Welcome back to Edge of IT. Today's episode is a high-octane look at how technology, data, and teamwork are reshaping one of the most extreme sports in the world, professional drag racing. We're joined by NHRA champion Leah Pruitt, who's not just pushing the limits on the track with Tony Stewart Racing, but off the track as well by pioneering a new kind of competitive edge using data analysis, predictive modeling, and AI-driven insights. Also joining us is David Luftig, Executive Vice President at Pellera, who's been side by side with Leah's team on this journey, helping them to turn their data into strategic advantage. We're taking a look behind the scenes of what it means to transform a legacy-driven sport with cutting-edge tech and how trust, curiosity, and a willingness to ask new questions can unlock performance at every level. Leah, it's so exciting to have you on the podcast. It was great to watch you race in person. It's been great to see what your team has done with Tony Stewart over the years. You've had an absolutely incredible career. Can you start us off by sharing where your passion from racing came from? I mean, you started really early on.
I did. I started drag racing when I was 8 years old. My father was a mechanic. He liked to land speed race at Bonneville. And so motorsports was embedded in me from a young age, and so was speed. So my first ever passion was speed. And then with speed comes winning. And I think everybody can relate to what that feels like, winning a round, winning a game, and learning sportsmanship. So throughout all of my years of racing, I just wanted to continue going faster, which means moving up the ranks. And then the team aspect of it really came in, and I found a passion for what I consider the team sport of racing. And that gives me just as much feelings of success of winning by myself in the car or winning all together. And so now I get to do those all together with Tony Stewart Racing.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of team, I joined a team with David about 8 years ago, and it's been an incredible ride. So David, I'm super excited to have you on the podcast finally. Just like Leah grew up in racing, you grew up in technology, from Cornell to New York Stock Exchange to Pellera. What led you to this point in your career?
Thank you again for having me, Jonathan. Started out on the development side as an application developer, solving problems for clients in the financial markets, as you mentioned, Jonathan, at the New York Stock Exchange. Then moved on to more of an analyst role, leading workshops and user sessions to ensure we understood the businesses, where they were going, what they needed, and then obviously helping them implement the technology. And then quickly moved into the business side of our organization. Fast forward to today, being an EVP for our strategy and solutions teams, including our AI, data analytics, cloud, application modernization, and cybersecurity teams.
That's quite a journey, David. Thank you. Today, we're digging into something a little bit different. Leah, your team's journey into data and AI and analytics. Fundamentally, drag racing is a very analog sport. What was the spark that said, maybe data can make us better?
I do want to share for those that are listening that don't know exactly what we do. We are professional drag racers with a top fuel car and a nitro funny car. Those are the top two highest levels of the NHRA Mission Foods Too Fast, Too Tasty drag racing series. We operate at over 330 miles an hour with 12,000 horsepower engines running on nitromethane. So they're the most sensitive, most powerful beasts in the world. But that brings me to that moment that you asked about. Neil, my crew chief, has a great relationship with a couple different astronauts, and we have visited the Johnson Space Center many times, and we had an invitation to come and explore opportunities with NASA. They had business opportunities on their own side where our industry could help them, and we were looking for ways that they could help us. After 9 hours of meetings all day with different departments, we've got to the final meeting, and basically an engineer said, "You just need data science." Neil and I looked at each other and we went, "Well, what's that?" we had to look it up online, Google, what is data science? Long story short, we we got with IBM and a team of their people, about 14 of them, which was a lot of people to start working on a project when we didn't have sole focus at that moment. And then we were handed off to Pellera, at that time was Converge. And that's when our real team of people stepped in. But the moment was, you need data science. And once we understood what that was on our own research, we went, this is an entire new world that should be able to help us, but we are helpless in this moment by ourselves, and we need the best help we can get. And our relationship with Pellera has proved none other but perfect for that. I've grown as a person, as a student of the sport, and I'd like to say just a little bit of technology that's at our fingertips has made a world of difference.
David, you've worked with more clients than I mean, how common is this type of journey?
I'll say it's uncommon working with the drag racing and the 12,000 horsepower engines. But I would say from a client outcome perspective and what we're looking to gain and how we were a trusted partner, Leah, for you and the team, that is something that's very common, ensuring at the start of any engagement, we truly understand the problem, what the business challenge is, and we understand what success is at the end of the day, right? And I think you mentioned before, right? Team sport, it's a sport, right? Success is a little bit more obvious, right? Winning, or at least performing better or at faster speeds. But just like you and the other drivers, Leah, right? You don't show up right before the race. You don't jump in the driver's seat and start driving, right? We don't just jump into coding. We don't just jump into developing a solution to a problem until we fully understand what that problem would be. We all have to take that, I'll say, the proverbial step back before we move forward and properly wait for that green light before we go. But at the end of the day, right, boiling it all back to data to really make the right decisions.
I think that you hit the nail on the head, David, right? Leah's team had the data and they just needed to bring that data together and use it to provide a great outcome. I mean, I remember sitting down with Lori a couple of years ago in a meeting and she said, Jonathan, Leah wants advice on taking a data science course. Can you walk through these different options and provide guidance on which one she might want to take? I thought that was absolutely phenomenal. What led you to the decision to take an MIT course on data science yourself? I mean, you didn't jump into the deep end of the cool pool. You jumped into like the Mariana Trench of the ocean in terms of depth of the material.
I did. That was probably the most difficult course I've ever taken in my life. But if we step back and go, all right, we need this technology. We need to be able to learn to use our data better, but we don't know any of the language and we don't know how. So we do not have an IT department within our organization. And so we knew that we needed to bridge this gap somehow. And so, yes, I took IBM's lead on that, looked at a couple different courses, and it was applied AI for decision-making with machine learning. So decision-making for us is exactly the direction I knew that we needed to be. We needed to be able to understand our data so that our humans can make the decisions in a better way. That's been the main goal at this entire project. So yes, I enrolled, and personally for me, that course began in early November and I was still competing for a championship, and this was 2023. So I had never coded before, didn't know how, maybe like for AOL for my profile when I was 14 or something. So didn't know all this pre-work I had to do, but ultimately I came away with a fundamental understanding of how models work, how they're built. I was able to help prep my team for the conversations with Pellera as we started our project. I'm thankful that I took those courses because it sparked so much interest with me within the technology sector that I continue to learn, and I have interests that I never knew about.
What has it been like for you leading this cultural shift in such a high stakes, tradition heavy sport?
I think when we look at where our mindset was when we decided to go this direction with Pellera, we're barely surviving and we're definitely not thriving. And that is not how we operate. So we actually have a motto at Tony Stewart Racing. It's one team, all team. We work day in, day out that way, hands on, and then also structure wise with people. So the top fuel car had performed very below our expectations. And that's why I said we were barely surviving. This is a company this company it's our livelihood. It's all of our employees' livelihoods. We don't race without partners and sponsors, and we don't get partners and sponsors unless we win. We don't win, all of that falls apart. And Tony Stewart Racing has been in business for 25 years. So it's our job to keep ourselves in championship contention. And we weren't anywhere close. Our problem was really in the beginning identifying the problem. And we'd had to have an outside source, and that was Pellera, that said, yes, you're not making it down the track very fast. You're also not making it down very consistently or completing your runs. And you don't complete a run, you can't win. So why are we not completing runs? We take it back. I could dive real deep into the problematic era, but we had a window of operating that was very, very small. And we first needed to open up that window of horsepower level so that we can get that right on our first try down the track of our first qualifier. And once you do that, then you can build throughout the weekend. And so they helped us identify our first goal and then built our solutions around that, which have just absolutely, they've multiplied across the board with the directions that we're going. But it's humbling to say that it took an entire other organization to help us nail down exactly what our own problems are and how to fix them, even though we have almost endless data.
Leah, you mentioned a few things in the last couple of segments here, right? And I think many of our clients, they have IT organizations, and you said you didn't have one, right? But many of our clients do, and they have technical teams. But we often find that even they're supporting the tech stacks that they have, and they don't even have time to work on where the business needs to go or where success is in the future, right? And the more modern tools to even help them get there efficiently, right? So I think what you did is such a step beyond so many others, right? To even companies that do have tech teams, right? And I touched on this a little bit before, right? The first thing we have to do is make sure you have all the right business stakeholders kind of in the room, right? The only way to truly look at a problem that we're solving is by looking at it from all of the angles, right? And all the different stakeholders. And from experience, I've seen this time and time again that as a result of the workshops that we run, the questions that we ask, the conversations that we have, we find two business people working for the same company in the same departments. Maybe it's your 2 and 2, right? Even with different responsibilities, they always learn something about the business from each other, right? And the problems from each other. And it's that aha moment when you figure out how to get down the track and how to win a race and how to do all that.
That couldn't be more true. We have hundreds of different vendors of products and services that are on the vehicle. And we have never experienced such a relationship that we have. We have pre-calls with Pellera before the weekend. What iteration of our predictive modeling are we on right now? Current updates to the dashboard. All right, are we ready, set for this weekend? We race throughout the weekend. Our team members on Pellera's side are tuning in on .tv or on Fox and watching literally the results that they can see, which are our elapsed times, our speeds, and whether we have a wind light or not. But that doesn't come anywhere close to our debriefing calls on Monday or Tuesday after travel days of how did we get there? What new areas do we need to incorporate into our predictive modeling that have been apparent this past weekend? We are trying to achieve maximum traction on a race surface that's always moving, temperature-wise, and maximum horsepower that with atmospherical conditions that are constantly moving throughout the day too. So it's all a numbers game and equations and algorithms that we've had our own set of them, but now we have new equations at a much quicker pace that allows for more opening up of doors. And we're operating right now in a space to have consistent runs. Our completion rate going down the track has improved, I believe, 29% over last year. We've got a 200% increase rate of elimination rounds, a 49% increase rate of elimination round wins. That's just from getting down the track. Now we are so excited about what is our phase 3 and our phase 4 of being absolutely like earth shattering quicker than our competition. Not just being there, but driving them into the ground. And we all get fired up and the Pellera team gets fired up. And it's just again, I said in the beginning, I love teamwork, and that's exactly what this entire whole project is about.
So far, we've heard how this journey started But the real magic happened when Leah's team got hands-on building dashboards, collaborating with Pellera, and seeing on-track results that couldn't have been achieved before. But what really sets this story apart isn't just the tech. It's the honesty and the mindset behind the transformation. There's something powerful about admitting when you need help. That kind of humility is rare, especially in a high-stakes, high-performance environment. And just as powerful was Leah's decision to bridge the gap herself, jumping into an MIT data science course, not to become a data scientist, but to become a better teammate, a better strategist, and a better driver. Next, we explore how predictive models evolved in real time, how post-race debriefs became data goldmines, and how teamwork between driver, crew, and technologists created something completely new in the sport. Something interesting I heard you say, right, was you didn't realize at the outset that there's these questions that you needed to be asking and things to be thinking about. And it's a constant process of iteration. I mean, I can imagine that compare this iteration of Tony Stewart to the team, the same people 2 years ago doing this. How has it changed the way that your team approaches performance or decision making?
We don't have to wait till we're at the racetrack anymore to guess what the weather is going to be. We can guess what the weather is going to be and run our predictive models 2 days ahead of time and have game plans already set of what does this situation look like? This is what we'll put in. I would say from there, because we're a multi-car team, we have focused on the top fuel car and haven't until recently, these last couple of months, has Funny Car been able to use the technology. That I think is very relatable to any company. You can have one sector working on models and tech, and everybody's seen what the progress is like and how to do it. And then when you go and switch it to a different department, and they have different information, right? Their data set's completely different, and their variables correlate to each other in different ways than ours do. So that does take different models, but they get to do it. They get to do the work in 15% of the time to get them to where we are at now. So I think it's compounding within an organization of what the benefits are, and seeing year over year. I mean, I can't wait to see how we finish up this season with the championship, but we are in the game of competitive problem solving. At the end of the day, I might be the driver in the car, or my husband's the guy in the car. Anybody, we stab the gas, we steer it, we do our job. But the performance of any professional drag race vehicle is based on the tuning of that race car. And that tuning is nothing but competitive decision making. And that is what we're doing.
What we've been able to do with teaming up with you is to just give more breadth, more time to that decision making.
With both cars, we can make very important tuning calls, the pneumatic flows for the clutch, so how fast and at what rate it engages through. And all those are last minute calls that time is of the essence. And we can make those calls with the data that we have now. I do want to say some aha moments for us really are almost every weekend, but we feel great in our space of the dashboard. We can filter API data from our industry of what other competitors have done on these race surfaces in our same conditions. What we have done, we don't have to spend time trying to remember, but also with the data and this visualization that we've been able to have, things are popping up to us that we haven't considered before. How else do we optimize individual factors of the race car? Let's say tire temp, for instance. There has to be an optimal tire temp because we know when it gets too hot, then it's going to go up. You're going to smoke the tires. When it's too cool, it's going to stick the tire. And we have all the data, but now let's start seeing. And once we know what that optimal temperature is, well, then we can make the moves to ensure that it is. Is that a shorter burnout, a longer burnout? What run of tire? Can you treat the tires before? Are you cooling them literally with water? That's just one example of probably 80 different variables. But if we weren't able to identify trends with it before, how would we even be focusing on it?
To do that amongst yourselves, trust and collaboration with each other and with the Pellera team, those are big themes.
I would say in a previous working relationship, we had heard the words that, like, that's easy, or we can do that, we've got that. And that wasn't with this team. When we got with Pellera, we felt like we were taken very seriously. And even though we are technically a sport, we have people's lives on the line. Safety is very serious here. So when we came to them about optimizing our performance, and we call it TOP, the Tuning Optimization Project, they took it as seriously as we did. And the trust was there. We could just feel it in the beginning. We all love one thing together, right? And that's overcoming challenges. And that's what I feel deep throughout the whole time. I thought in the beginning we were going to have this one project and it would help just us a little bit get on track. And now we're in a spot that we cannot continue to operate without it, not because we are reliant on it, but because of the capabilities of everything moving forward, of what we're able to do. That's the future.
I mean, I think it is in the DNA of where we come from, David, is that we are truly invested in helping our clients focus on transformation. Could you share a little bit about your perspective on Pellera's approach to helping clients in that way?
We all know the common AI use cases that are out there, but ultimately it's that transformation is about how do we take this technology beyond, I'll say, the common user tool use case, right? When it's out there. And talking about the vertical and specific use cases, as Leah mentioned, transforming with the core, those decision-making processes of the business, right? And as we move forward, right, we see AI providing acceleration to more core functions in the business. We even see scenarios where AI will optimize the preparation for an athlete to perform at peak performance, right? Just like we have with both the driver and the car for you and the team, Leah, right? So again, transforming with the businesses that our clients are transforming with, right? It's not AI for the sake of doing AI or impressing your board, but it's AI for the sake of providing the business outcomes, providing the value, and delivering the results.
You described this as competitive decision-making, limited amount of time between races to bring the team together and make decisions. And you talked about how you've worked with our team in those post-race debriefs. Can you share a moment where the insights directly improved on-track performance from those meetings?
I would say working backwards from a post-race meeting, Pellera is able to really digest what our problems were in that previous weekend and come back with really a Reader's Digest saying, okay, so you're telling me that the model might be off by 0.2 for top fuel and 0.4, but it was consistent. We understand there's an offset and maybe we can't fix that offset right now, but why was there this offset? And then it's a question that makes us dive back into our data and our atmospherical conditions and that log. And what were the outliers there that happened that didn't happen before? Because not only did it make a difference in our predictive model, it has made a difference in the race car in another spot. So I would say aha moments for the post race have been, besides, hey, this really worked. And we got down first pass on Q1 and we were low qualifier. And then that set the tone for the entire weekend. And Tony won his first race and we had the dashboard. Like, that's a real, I have goosebumps right now. I mean, we had our very first success when we had the most amount of tools, Pellera tools with us on our first race. And then we gained increasingly momentum after that. So our post-race are what happened this past weekend and how can we work on it? But also this worked, because that's important. We all live off of these little wins, and the Pellera team needs to know what worked throughout the weekend and how we got to run that quick. I also do want to say that as much as we look forward to optimizing future performance and working in that direction, it is just as important that we don't repeat the same mistakes that we have in the past. And we would easily do that without being able to read and utilize the data that in a way that we are right now. So there's wins on both sides.
Tony Stewart Racing is clearly on the leading edge in its sport when it comes to integrating AI and analytics. What advice do you have to other industries that might be hesitant to lead into AI or analytics?
it's worth the journey, but it is a decent amount of work. You start without the IT background. But I think overall, to any industry, making sure you have a champion inside that's not afraid to take risks. And even if they're not C-level executive, maybe that executive gives them the, I don't want to say opportunity, but that 10-foot leash of, yes, somebody, please go out and look at this, right? Look at AI. It's everywhere. Why are we not using it? Encouraging them that it's okay to dive into exploring the options, because those that don't even explore are going to be left behind.
David, what advice would you give to other organizations to make their own transformation and get that extra jump off the starting line and not be left in the dust of their competition?
Embrace and learn about the advances in the new technology, right? Use them to help flex into enhancing your business, right? And stay ahead of the competition, right? Again, it's not technology for the sake of technology, but how does it help your business and how do you move forward? I think the second, and maybe this is a little bit biased here, right? But it's find those partners that will truly take the time to understand your business before jumping into the technology. A partner that you could trust, that will innovate with you, that will not be afraid to be honest with you through the engagement, that will invest in succeeding with you on initiatives or pull the plug, or maybe I should say pull the chute when things are not working, to really help you manage your investments. But ultimately, it's managing those investments to the highest level of efficiency, right? Also, not being afraid to solve the hardest problems, because I think if you find that partner that will help you solve those hardest problems, you found a partner that can help you solve most, if not all, of your problems.
To wrap up, let's get tactical. Of all the metrics now available to you, what's the one data point you personally keep a close eye on to ensure those wins keep coming?
The athlete in me that is looking at my throttle trace pickup and my brake pressure. And that's one aspect. Quicker I push down the throttle, the better, the right amount of brake pressure to pass through it. I always have and always will look at that. But now that we have this entire project with us, what I'm looking for is our established KPIs and how close we're now coming to them. And when we've missed it, how far we have been from them and why. So KPIs for us are increments down the racetrack at markers, 60 feet, 330 feet, half track, and 1,000 feet. And just because you're quick to one doesn't mean you're quick to the other. And each one of those have about 20 to 30 variables that equate to how quick you are at each one. So our eyes are locked and glued to how we ran in each, we'll call it 4 different finish lines, how well we ran at each one of those 4 different finish lines and comparing them to the predictive model because we know how it correlates. Again, this is not one push button and the car goes down the racetrack, but there's so many derivatives that we make from our predictive modeling that give us decisions to make those decisions and we compare. So I wish I could say it was absolutely one thing, but if we didn't define the KPIs for them, for the Pellera team, then they couldn't run the regression that they do and give us the insights.
Leah and David, thank you so much for joining me.
You as well. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you for having me on the edge of IT.
Thank you guys as well. Thank you very much.
In a sport where everything happens in under 4 seconds, the difference between good and great isn't just the amount of horsepower you have. It's decision-making, preparation, and vision. Whether you're leading a race team or a business transformation, this episode is a powerful reminder. Real progress starts by asking better questions and having the right people at the table to help you find the answers. Thanks for listening to Edge of IT. Make sure to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.